Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo. Why do my plants wilt and droop in the heat of the sun? Let's go answer that question. Okay, so every now and then you go out into your garden and you notice that your plants are wilty and droopy. And especially those tender annuals and young plants and those plants that contain a lot of water content like cucumbers and melons, they'll just droop their leaves. Figs will do this a lot too. Figs are real temperamental, especially the ones that are in pots, not so much the ones in the ground. But yeah, this is a problem that might shock us. Now, okay, so the disclaimer on this video is that everything I'm going to say to you about not worrying about the droop is if you are regularly watering your plants. If you can stick your finger down to the knuckle there in the soil and it's damp or moist down in there, you can feel coolness, and you are watering properly, then that's when you don't have to worry about this. But I mean, sometimes your plants are going to droop because you're not a good gardener and you're not watering them well, and they're going to die. But if you are a good gardener and you are keeping your plants irrigated, then all that's happening is as the sun is at its height, or as the temperatures get into extremes of that plant's ability to breathe and function well, the plant starts sensing it's losing more water than it ought to through those pores that are on the bottom of the leaves. They're called stoma or stomata, it depends on which book you read. And that's literally how the plant breathes and transpires moisture. So it takes, through its root system, it takes up moisture into the plant, uses that to photosynthesize and to live on, and it transpires, and a lot of that moisture comes out of the plant. So if it gets really hot and the plant senses I need to shut down for a little bit, it just droops. It pumps water back into the stems and back into the root system and stores it there to hold on to that water when it's too hot. It's transpiring too much. And so you'll see the leaves, literally, they look like they've wilted. They've become limp. And on cucumber plants especially, you'll see those leaves kind of fold up like an umbrella and just lay there, and you'll freak out. Don't freak out if you're watering regularly. I got some examples. Let's go take a look. Take a look at this fig tree. It's kind of droopy. This one over here is also droopy. That's because it is high noon, or it's 2 o'clock and the sun's beating down on these, and they're preserving their water by pumping it further down into the system here, the roots and the stems. We will come back and see these later and they'll be perked up. Here that some of the leaves are literally flopping over, looking wilted. Now that actually might be a wilted leaf, but you can see they're not rigid, they're not strong, they're floppy, and that's because it's really hot. These beans are going to be nice and plump and rigid when the sun is off of them, and you'll just notice, you'll be tempted to come out and water, and you can water them, but you run the risk of overwatering your plants if you respond to plants that are just drooping their leaves in response to high heat and doing the natural defense mechanism. There's plenty of moisture in the soil. I've got a 4-inch depth layer of mulch down there, and there's nothing wrong with these guys. Most frequently you will notice leaf droop in squash plants. Cucumbers especially are prone to this. In fact, let's go look at the cucumbers. They're looking pretty taut right now. I don't think they're having any trouble. But you'll notice it in cucumbers especially, and they'll droop the leaves, and you'll think, oh no, I need to water them. I need to get on the watering. No, you don't have to worry about it. Just give them a little while and watch them. If they do not recover from drooping their leaves, then yes, you probably need to water. And these cucumbers need to be trellised up. Look, I've got blossoms. Oh, that's an example of a squash doing that leaf wilt thing. You can see how loose and limp that leaf is. This plant is not dying. This plant has plenty of moisture down in the soil, but it's simply responding to the heat of the day and direct sunlight by moving some water out of its leaves, and therefore they get kind of droopy. Totally natural. There's a good example there, because this guy sits close to these bricks which absorb and radiate heat. So we'll move those over. And you can see that's what I'm talking about right there. You might think, oh no, I'm not, my plants are dying. Let's check this soil that this plant lives in. Okay, so you can already see it. There's no crust. It feels cool. I can tell there's moisture in this soil. It's pretty dense right here. But I mean, that's not dry soil. That's actually just, that's cool to the touch. So With a good layer of mulch here, this plant has plenty of moisture available to it. It's just transpiring moisture at a faster rate than the plant can because of the heat that's on it, and so it's pumping the water down further into the stems and the root system. That's all that's going on here. Again, if you're a good gardener, you keep your plants watered and you keep your soil well mulched, you don't have to worry about that. This pepper right here is doing the same thing. Come back this evening, these guys will be all perked up. Okay, here's the perfect example. These are my Kogigu pumpkin pits, and you can see that that squash plant, all of those squash plants are just fine. They're in filtered shade. Okay, so the transpiration going on through the stomata in those leaves is not stressing the plant out. Filtered shade. But right next to them, in direct sunlight on a hot day, you can see that those leaves have started to shut down and wilt a bit. You don't have to worry about that. That's their natural response. They will perk up at the end of the day. Seed challenge is suffering from that afternoon droop. You can see it looks like I need to water it, and I might be real tempted to water that plant because it is my single seed challenge. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to come down here and we're going to put our finger down in the soil 2 or 3 inches, and if it feels moist down there, and it kind of does, it's cool down there, we don't need to water. This is just the plant's natural reaction to the heat of the sun. And you'll notice my plant is finally putting on some fruit here. That makes me excited. These little guys, on the other hand, are in very small containers, and these small containers are prone to dry out, and you can see they're drooping a little bit. So these guys actually do need a bit of water because they're not in the ground. Their roots are not spread out far and wide. They are stressed out, so we're going to give them some water. Whenever you have small seedlings in little containers like that, you want to make sure that they are kept moist every single day, because they dry out so quickly and they get crusty on the top, and they're so tender and young. You want to baby those along, so always water those every day. Okay, now you can see with a little drink they've perked up and they're in the shade now. And now that the figs are in the shade, they've perked up as well. You can see they're nice and taut. Yeah, looking good. That guy's a little wilty still, but for the most part they're perking up. You can see now that the sun is actually going down, you can see that my single seed challenge is perked up a bit. It's nice, and you can feel the rigidity in the stems. And once again, there's that fruit coming in. All these beans have in fact perked up, and again you can just feel the tension in those cell walls. You can feel that it's nice and rigid now. It's no longer floppy. So you don't have to worry about droopy plants. It's just the plant's natural response. There's also a debate whether you should garden or water in the morning or in the evening. And I read a book about this where 2 gardeners in a French town had great and varying ideas about when to water. It was very entertaining. Basically, the solution is basically water whenever you want. Man, that's my first harvest of the year right there. A little pygmy. What is this? This is a yellow pygmy micro, and I've been waiting on these guys, so this is a real treat for me. I get to taste my first tomato of the year. Man, I just ate that pygmy micro tomato. I missed my tomato harvest last year because of aminopyrrolate herbicide. That was the first real delicious good tomato that I've tasted, gosh, in over a year. The things from the grocery store, man, those things are so nasty. Pretty sorry excuse for a tomato. This is Aldi's Romas. Some of them are soft, but they don't have much color. They're pithy, they're not ripe, they don't have any flavor. It's just like eating mush. Firm mush, I guess, if that makes any sense. But wow, that was a burst of tomato flavor. I've been looking forward to that for so long. Wow. People ask me, why do you spend so much time and effort gardening tomatoes when you could just go to the store and buy some? If you've never had a garden-grown, sun-ripened tomato, you can't. I understand your question, but if you have had a garden-ripened, sun-ripened, delicious tomato, then you know why we put in so much time and effort. They're just so much better. They are real tomatoes. They're not those hybrids that are bred for shipping and all of them being the exact same size and all of them looking good on the vine. I mean, if you buy those vine-ripened tomatoes they sell in the store, they say the hydroponically grown organic vine-ripened tomatoes, and they're all tennis ball size, and there's 6 of them in a little container, and the vine is attached, and the vine is unnaturally green. They're bred to look appealing on the shelf, but they taste like junk. They're awful. Don't buy that garbage. Grow your own. It's really, really so much worth. I can still taste it. It's lingering. What a sweet, tart. It's like candy, man. That tomato was so good. Anyway, back to our video. There you go. A little bit of info about, dealing with plants that look like they're dying on you when they're really not. It's just natural. It's a defense mechanism, and it's something you can deal with. So don't be alarmed when your plants start wilting in the heat of the day. It's nature. Thanks for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Hey, please subscribe to our videos. If you'd like to see how my garden's looking in mid-April, I'm going to link you to the video right now. Go watch that video and like us and subscribe. See us on Facebook, on Instagram, Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Talk to you next time. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.